All right, we're live once again, YouTube. Give us a minute to warm up, get the message out while I finish off some lunch. The lunchtime drag. So what's been going on? So the topic of the day is the president's Birthright Citizenship executive order, looking like he's going to try to push through. Um, discussion to follow as we get people in here. But hope everybody's doing good. The weather's nice out here. We got a little bit of fallback after it was burning up this weekend. If you know what I mean. Already got some people in here. All right. Glitch Mod in the house. What's up? How you been doing? Haven't seen you in a while. I thought you were like rotating out or going somewhere or something. Maybe that was next month. But anyway, so this birthright citizenship deal that the president just made a statement he's going to make an executive order on. I mean, the question is, can he do it? Is it going to be legal? It's going to be challenged. It needs to end without a doubt. Birthright citizenship is a joke. Using the 14th Amendment, which was meant to convey the rights of citizenship to the former slaves, is ridiculous to try to apply it to anybody who decides they want to come over here and have kids and that they are suddenly a citizen. No sovereign nation would turn their sovereignty over decisions to just because a mom gives birth. The birth mom all of a sudden has this big power to make citizens. That's essentially what is happening by supporting that kind of policy. It needs to end. Whether or not Trump can do it by executive order is the big question. Congress needs to act for sure to make it clear, because in the debates on the original 14th Amendment, they did make it clear in the debates and in the discussion. It did not apply to foreign nationals. It was not meant to apply to them. And it said those are under the jurisdiction. Foreign nationals are not under the jurisdiction per se. They have different... they come here and they're on different rules. And to treat everyone that walks in here like that is just ridiculous. And that's what they're trying to get rid of. And hopefully they do. But I don't know that the president can do that, because it is a congressional responsibility to set rules for naturalization. But if they've written, we'd have to look at the laws pretty closely, what's been written in immigration law that Congress has passed. What have they turned over to the executive branch as far as making these decisions? What's worse is everybody's abdicated their authorities. And the way this process has worked in the past, it's gotten so far down the road, 80 years of this disaster of a policy, I guess you'd say, or just turning the other cheek, and everybody's thinking they can profit from it or benefit from it. Like, at the state and local level, we get more voters that are, happy to be around. And the corporate level, they're like, well, we get some pretty decent labor out of these people. Let's keep them around. Let's keep this policy going. Seems to be what led us down this road. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we got M Long in with us. What's going on, M Long? Glitch Mod. JJ, hey, how you doing, JJ? And Bikes and Bullets is in here. Is that Bikes? Yeah, right on. Glitch Mod said he supports it. Hey, M Long, no worries. Everybody's got different schedules. No worries. My morning shows have been lousy anyway lately. Nah, I wouldn't say that necessarily, but I don't know. Everybody else can speak for that, but hey, everybody's got to do what they got to do, whether or not you make it or not. Well, JJ, yeah, that's the other issue. Did the 14th Amendment make everybody slaves under the condition of subjectivity to the 10-mile square in D.C.? That's a whole other problem, right? Yeah, JJ's all over it. All right. Yeah, taking away the state sovereignty is the biggest travesty of all that. Not only the 14th, but the 17th Amendment. Kind of dealing death blows, and nobody else stand up. So, I guess the question with this is, how are you going to enforce this? Because the way things are so loosey-goosey right now, anybody can go to any county and get their birth certificate. And the way that when things have been running, that gets them all the rights and benefits. How's this going to be implemented? When in the past, states and counties just looked the other way and have benefited from it, really profited from it. Now, it's going to be funny when some state like California and New York tries to sue over this policy. I can see that happening. But what standing is the Supreme Court or anybody else going to give them? How do they have a dog in the fight? Might be the wrong word, but how do they have the ability to take from court when they don't have standing on this issue? Because states don't have any authority in setting immigration or naturalization rules. They don't have any of that authority. The Constitution clearly says it. Is a court going to ignore that just for somebody's feelings? Because somebody came here supposedly for a better life. Of course, is going to be the argument, and you can't turn them away, supposedly. Is that what some state's going to argue to try to get this to court? Who is going to be the first case that's going to try to get this to court, and what court is going to hold it? Are they going to have to wait till some kid is born and denied? Yeah, the implementation of this whole thing is the hard part to understand. Is this just going to be another red herring, maybe, thrown out by the president of just because he says it doesn't make it so. Just because the president says we're going to end birthright citizenship, implementing that is going to be much harder after decades and decades of abuse of the system and doing this. Am I right? Who we got? We got a bunch of people checking in here. Bikes and Bullets was with us. Hey, Midwest Prepper, what's going on? Yeah, prefer the Articles of Confederation. Right, if we were going to go with some states' rights issues, but we're way past that. We're way down that road. LS is with us. Wes S, what's going on? Based Mom, how you doing? I'm sorry to hear you're in Vegas, but hey, everybody's got to do what they got to do. Right, JJ? Maybe the states might think they surrendered, but they're still going to try to fight this, some of them at least. On some level, I bet. Yeah, Wes, it's way past due to shut it down. But how's it going to get shut down? Is there going to be an agent in everybody's local hospital that's going to track all births and determine who's naturalized and who's natural born? You know, that's the problem we're going to get into with this type of thing is this just going to run down more of the police state? Is this going to cause more problems? I mean, it looks good on the shiny outside, right? Hey, yeah, we got to get rid of this. This is obviously a bad policy. It's bad for the country. But is it going to take 20,000 additional federal agents swarm throughout the masses to implement this? Or is this going to be a red herring, dead order? It's going to be a dead letter and just, it's going to look good on paper, but not really do anything. How's that going to work? You know, that's going to be another issue, which just further antagonizes everybody, gets everybody against each other and everything else. So I think while it sounds good what Trump said, and yes, end birthright citizenship, but how do you do that when there's probably nobody going to support it at the local level. There's probably nobody that does these records, that does birth records, that's going to enforce it. Or state governments are going to tell people to ignore it and just continue what they're doing. Hey, Saints and Sappers, good afternoon. What's going on? Right. Well, JJ, yeah, the whole issue of states' rights and state sovereignty and individual sovereignty is long past our understanding. For even our understanding of it is different than what it was 180 years ago. Yeah, Clark County has 1 in 6 are illegal. Really? I've never seen a stat on that, but it doesn't sound too far off. But yeah, who in Vegas is going to enforce this? You know, Base Mom talks about that. It's like, if the president passes this decree, but you still have people going into hospitals in Vegas, having kids, they come out of the hospital, they go get their birth certificate, they apply for their, you know, sign the forms there or whatever, sign themselves over to the government. Then they go to the county government and get their birth certificate. That's all they need, right? And then they're going to be supposedly a citizen, the way it's working now. But I definitely don't want to see a federal agent never birth certificate location verifying that stuff either. Bikes is working as he listens. All the fools that voted that the people... Wait, what does Bike say here? All the fools that claim that the people that did not vote for these criminals have no say. Well, all you that voted for this are responsible, right? But they don't want to take responsibility because they think it's the other side's fault. I voted for the good guy. Everybody else was the bad guy, right? The casino employees will riot. Well, they're already rioting. It seems like forever vote rally they have down there. You see in the news and whatnot. But yeah, if they don't get Rosen in or something, they'll probably riot. Shoot the first person who fakes a birth certificate. Well, that's a good answer. But Wes, what we're talking about here is not fake ones. We're talking about real legitimate ones. Who's going to change the process? Who's going to interrupt the process from what it currently is? How are they going to stop that? You know, I don't know that they can. That's the problem with this. The real nitty gritty of the president's order is, okay, you've said it, you've set a decree, but how are you really going to do it? Even if Congress details a law that fine tunes what immigration and naturalization means in this respect, who's going to enforce it? Are certain states going to do, maybe certain states will step up and continue to do it, right? But majority will just ignore it, right? And then it won't do any good. It'll just be empty words, right? It'll just be empty words, I think. And that's what we're probably going to end up with. It's a good virtue signaling thing for the election, unfortunately. It gets a lot of people fired up because they see the president doing something on a big issue that's important. But how can you put any teeth into it, you know, without actual people on the ground actually doing something? That's going to be the real sticking point of all this. You guys are getting way off subject here. Back up. JJ had a good point, though, asking about the, I think it was JJ, the caravan that's coming. What I think is going to happen with that and the military going to the border. We haven't talked about that this week since the order to send troops has been sent down there, right? Oh, Glitchmod asks, how do you think the military is going to deal with the cockroach caravan? Well, the invasion, as I like to call it, Glitchmod, it's more so an invasion. Well, they've said the 5,000 is pretty much support troops. But I guess they bumped the number up to 4,000. You can't get a good number. It's like every report you look at, it's a different number of how many troops are going to be doing it. But it's like, I mentioned it in a chat last week, is you're going to need some, the soldiers you'd think would go to areas where there's not coverage of border control checkpoints for the most part. People on the ground. Now, if they actually put anybody on the ground. Now, if they're just support, if they're just running traffic and driving trucks or bringing in logistics like they were talking about, that doesn't really change anything other than Border Patrol having more people at the border control checkpoints to check papers and process people as they bring them in this refugee status, which it sounds like they might be doing for what is now sounding like close to, 40,000 people caravan in different phases. Like there's multiple caravans now lined up, it sounds like, of different varying sizes up to 40,000 people, so the military response to that, if they actually get on the border, is going to be concerning because we talked about it. Who brought that comment up? The problems that would arise first soldier that shoots one of these invaders, it's going to cause a big discon. They were saying, with neighboring countries and the UN and Mexico and stuff. I think the real concern is if something like that happened and somebody did get shot on the border, people internal to this country would riot. The different La Raza groups, all that, the LA riots would be tame compared to what we would end up with should somebody get injured out there on the border, or even killed. Injury probably would cause it, but death would definitely be red alert level for all your major riot-prone areas in particular. I think you could see something very tragic out of something like that. We have just begun to see it. So hopefully nobody's happy on the trigger. Hopefully there's not a lot of media down there around the border looking for trouble, which is probably not the case because there's media traveling with the caravans, so they'll probably be on the other side filming as well. It'll be just like the Israeli-Palestine thing. There'll be people framing it in different ways to get an agenda out and stoke people's emotions. So that's going to be the real concern, is how the media portrays it if it does happen. But really, less than lethal would be ideal. I mean, it looks like there's some situations where they're throwing rocks and stuff and small riots when they can't get into certain areas or something, but that can be easily handled, especially when they're out in the middle of the desert with no means of support. Like you can't really do much protesting out there in that area. Saints and Sappers says 3 battalions of engineers are laying wire. Is that true? They're actually putting up wire down on the border areas. I had not seen anything about that, but definitely that'd be a good situation. I mean, better than nothing, especially in this situation. Go ahead and try to run through Concertina wire. See how far it gets you. Guatemala already killed 20 of them in the caravans, says Glitch Mod. I haven't seen that either. Yeah, I haven't even seen any reports on that. Definitely interesting. Of course, nobody's going to say a word because they see that as them people on each other. When they get up here, it's the white man oppressing them. So it's a whole different level of angst if it happens up here. Stan Ulch is with us. Hey, good afternoon, Stan. I think there's even a third wave, Stan. It's more than just a second wave. I believe there's a third one. Mind the whole border. Who needs a fence? Saint says 22 miles. Is that 22 miles of wire, Saints, with 150 in reserve? So they've already put out 22 miles of wire. That's a lot of wire. Mines are effective, Stan, but I don't know if we definitely put some signs out there if we do something like that for sure, right? But we would really want to know where they're going. We'd want a good idea of how to channelize them with that wire so they don't go across the really vulnerable areas. I mean, if they come up to a normal border checkpoint, that's easy to contain. It's the areas where you don't have good visibility and stuff where we really want to put the troops, I think, and the boots on the ground and wire as well. It looks like that would be the best thing to do. Rebel Solutions is with us. What's up, Reb? How's morale? LS asked if these folks are traveling with children. Yeah, LS, there's most definitely children and women. There's, plenty of both, of all types of people. Now, how they're mixed in and what the numbers are is hard to tell. But there's definitely plenty of just males traveling single, that's for sure. But there's families and everybody else traveling together as well. Stan Oates says, just psych them out, put minefield signs out without the mines. That's a good diversion technique, right? Channelize them. They don't know any better. You put a big row of like freshly dug holes covered back up out there in the middle of the desert. Put a couple dead animals out there in the middle of it. Who's going to take the risk, right? That's one way to do it. Midwest Prepper says sound deterrent non-lethal weapon system. Are you talking about the LRADs? Midwest? Are you saying they're going to put LRADs on there, or they can? That would be a consideration, I guess. Reb asks, what's the rules of engagement for Border Patrol? I'm pretty sure it's only defend yourself if life is in jeopardy. I don't think they have any rules of engagement for somebody just running across the border. I don't think they engage just for that. It has to be threat upon them or somebody else to stop serious bodily harm. The perimeter will be like Gitmo, says Bikes, one day soon. Maybe the border, yeah, that's a possibility the way this is going. When you see the numbers of this caravan go up and up and up, the parallels between this and what happened to Rome in the later stages of the empire is just, it's almost blatantly obvious. When the Germanic tribes came up against the eastern borders of Rome, and they had to come into the Roman Empire because of the Huns and whatnot, and the Romans negotiated with them and let them in anyway. But they were the ones that ultimately undermined the empire and destroyed them from within, even. But it was already, in the sign of the times, I guess. What's the word for it? It was kind of already baked in that Rome was going to fall because of debt and the expansive empire, but the invasion of foreigners definitely sped it up. Yeah, I don't know why anybody would put their kids in a situation like that on purpose. That's why it's questionable as to the situation of the kids that are part of that convoy. Yeah, JJ says there really aren't many kids. They're being trafficked on the way north. Yeah, possibly. It's really hard to get firm numbers because the media doesn't want to lose that emotional, feel-good story of women and kids heading to the border. But at what situation does it have to be considered an invasion? I consider it an invasion already. That's pretty much what I call it. The media will never call it an invasion. But the politicians won't either because it's all touchy-feely at this point. But that is what it is with the caravan, as they like to call it, which, again, is still ironically timed. and hasn't lost any veracity. It doesn't seem like. Everybody makes fun of it, says, oh, it's still 1,000 miles away from the border. Yeah, but they're still moving and they haven't lost, and they're gaining numbers with Mexicans and other people who probably have bad intentions overall. So, I don't know. That's the situation, that convoy, a caravan invasion. Definitely gonna have to keep an eye on it, because it's just going to be a matter of somebody being threatened or somebody making the wrong move to cause an incident that could have big ramifications. And again, my biggest concern in that whole border thing is what would happen internally. The Antifa groups and the La Raza types would burn down cities practically if somebody was harmed down there, I think. That would be the big trigger point for a lot of these people to act out, I guess as you would say, like little kids do. They'll definitely be acting out if somebody was harmed across that border, I think. LS asks, when can we get the military involved? You know, that's up to the president. When does the president want to defend the border? That's been a decades-long question, right? When are we going to actually defend our border from invasion? We were talking last week about the JTFs that ended because of a border incident. We used the military for counter-narcotics for years, and but that ended back in the 90s under Clinton. There you go. JJ brings a good point. There's a 4-hour video, the second wave. I just saw a brief, I didn't know it was 4 hours long. A brief point of that second wave throwing rocks and rioting basically on the southern border of Mexico. That's definitely make you think twice about what they are. Do you have a link for that, JJ? You can drop it in here if that's a YouTube link. Drop it in. I haven't seen the whole thing either. I've only seen snippets. What do you mean? It means us too. The birthright's a double-edged sword. Parents and like will have no rights. What do you mean, Bikes? I'm not following your logic on that one. Because it's only moving forward, I would think, to actually enforce some of that. But anyway, I think the biggest thing with that birthright issue, Bikes, is it's unenforceable. The president can say it, but I don't know if it's enforceable. Think harder, you. I think it's unenforceable, Bike, so it's not going to matter ultimately, I don't think, unless Congress makes a law. But even then, the states aren't going to force their people to do the records, I don't think. Okay, JJ, it was on Facebook. All right, if you track it down, just drop it in the comments before I check out here or after. It'd be good to check it out. Stan says the real invasion has been in our own governments and academia. Well, yeah, we've been subverted and undermined for years, no doubt. It only gets worse when your native population is doing it for profits, one thing, and when the foreign population undermines and subverts your government from a foreign perspective, it takes on a whole different level. And just ask Rome. I mean, Rome was just as corrupt. And when the foreigners took charge, this really fell apart. LS, you brought it up a few weeks ago. There's no fixing this setup. Only real change is a complete restart, right? Unfortunately, I mean, how do you turn the ship around? It doesn't look like it's possible. You can either deconstruct it or it has to fall apart completely. JJ says they think they removed the full. All right. Well, we'll talk about it later, JJ, or you can post it on the G Plus or something or whatever. No doubt. I just haven't seen the whole thing. But there was definitely some video of them being violent. Saints statement on military to the border. You're making a statement or the president's making a statement? Saints sounds like he's starting to make a decree. All right, we're going to check out here, folks. Thanks for checking in. I just want to put some thoughts out there on this presidential order as well. I mean, as well-intentioned as it might sound, it doesn't really have any effect, I don't think. And unfortunately, it kind of keeps attention on people that are trying to think of what they're going to vote for. But other than that, does it have a real effect? I don't think so, unfortunately. That's just the way it is. But if they do go to enforce it, I think it's going to take 20,000 federal agencies and officers to go throughout the country, and we don't want that either. So it's a bad situation either way. So things only get worse instead of getting better, regardless of how you slice it. So thanks for checking in. We'll talk to you later, folks. Have a good day. Live free.